Hi there, welcome to the channel Sluggers for your CAT preparation, guys. I'm Anupam Mishra and I'm Lucknow alumnus. And if you want to know more about the credentials, you can pause the video and go through this. I'll anyways end session के end में आपको वैसे भी मैं डिटेल में अपना इंट्रोडक्शन और अपने credentials के बारे में बताऊंगा. For now, I would like to move on to the topic at hand, which is we are starting the series. It's the very first session of the series, Daily Word Webs to build the CAT. Okay, so चलिए शुरू करते हैं. So guys, when it comes to learning vocabulary or the relevance of vocabulary in preparation for management entrance tests or other tests जहाँ पे भी आपका English section आता है, there's a wide variety of opinion that is available on the internet. आप internet पे देखिए, YouTube पे देखिए, or maybe if you maybe test prep platforms, like बहुत सारे opinions हैं. There are some people on one end of the spectrum saying that well it plays a very determining role and बहुत ही ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, इसके बिना आप नहीं कर सकते. And then you'll have people on the other end of the spectrum who will say okay, no, this is something that can be easily circumvented. बहुत ही मतलब इतना ज़रूरी नहीं है vocabulary के ऊपर काम करना. Now what is my take on that is, well, I don't believe there's a yes and no answer here so far as the relevance of vocabulary in test prep is concerned. And it's a topic that requires that warrants for a separate video itself. Okay, so and वो वीडियो मैं आपसे ज़रूर शेयर करूँगा आने वाले समय में, depending on when you're watching this video. So okay, so उसकी वो डिस्कशन हम लोग बाद में करेंगे. For now, what I want to get into is, well, see, when it comes to vocabulary, there are multiple ways to learn vocabulary. Okay, and one of the very effective ways is the etymological approach. Okay, just writing that down, and which is best exemplified by this book that you must have heard of, Norman Lewis, Word Palm Made Easy, right? वो काफी अच्छी किताब है. And then there are other methods of learning vocabulary. People use word list, cue cards, and often people learn vocabulary, imbibe vocabulary, new words from their reading habits, right? So वो भी काफी, so many of these methods, I believe some of these methods are more effective than the others. And then depending on based on my experience, मेरे को जो इसमें ज़्यादा effective लगे हैं as an instructor, as well as my own as well as the experience of developing my own vocabulary, I'll share with उसके हिसाब से मैं आपके लिए series लेके आऊँगा आगे. Okay. However, for now, this particular series, which is Daily Word Webs, this is mainly based on the etymological approach. Okay, to build the CAT. How will we go about this? Let me explain that to you. Okay, so guys, see, in these sessions, the way we'll go about things is that the flow आपका ऐसा कुछ रहेगा. In every session, we'll take a single root or maybe a couple of roots, which have been derived from languages such as Latin, Greek, or other languages. And these are usually roots based on, roots that have been borrowed from these languages into the English language. Okay, and many words in the English language are formulated, are anchored in these roots. ठीक है. So and then आपको भी हम लोग examples भी आगे देखेंगे इस सेशन में. So मैं आपको यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक बार फ्लो बता रहा हूँ कि what will be the flow of the whole episodes here. We'll start, like, obviously episode flow वाला आपका ये slide है. उसके बाद we'll move on to the next slide where I'll talk to you about, I'll give you more information about the particular root, कि ये कौन से Greek में से लिया गया है, Latin में से लिया गया है, किसी और language में से लिया गया है, and then what does it mean, what did it use to mean in that language, and how has its meaning developed or evolved over the years, so far as its use in words of English language is concerned. We'll talk about that. Root info में. Moving on, after that we'll move into the word web. So basically word web will be the section where we go through the various words of the English language that have been derived from this particular root. Okay, अलग-अलग जो भी शब्द इसमें से derive हुए हैं उसकी हम लोग बात करेंगे. And obviously, see, if you just look at the word and look at the meaning, that's not enough. You also need to see the words in action, and that's where we'll bring in the sentences that exemplify the usage of these words, right? So that will be useful. And then moreover, please understand that these sentences are not just random sentences that we have made up. We are sourcing these sentences. We are getting these sentences from your major news aggregator articles, like let's say sometimes the Guardian, the Economist, etc. Right? So वहाँ से आपके sentences आ रहे हैं. And then moving on to finally, we'll put up a very simple match the following exercise. उसके बारे में बताऊंगा क्या exercise आपको later part में. So that where you can test your learning, and at the end of it, we'll summarize with noting all the roots that we've learned in the process in the episode, and all the words that we've learned, right? So that's what the flow of these sessions will be. Okay, so yeah, welcome to Daily Word Webs to build the CAT. let's start. The root for today's session, which is lum, lum, or lumen. These roots derive from the Latin language, and they mean lumen and lum. They basically stand for light. Okay. However, please do note that the root lumen particularly, okay, this it has one more meaning when it comes to the Latin language, right? Lumen, in the context of biology, also stands for say an opening. Okay, you'll have to get used to my handwriting here, please do that. And opening or maybe a cavity. Okay, but however, do understand that that's not the context in which we shall be looking at this root today. Okay, this is not the context in which we shall be looking at this root today. However, that is one of the meanings of the word lumen. The context in which we will be looking at this word would be where it stands for the word light. Okay, where lum and lumen both stand for the word light. There are other similar roots, like luc and luc, which is used in words such as lucid, etc., and photo, which also stand for light, right? But these roots are something that we'll look at in the upcoming sessions. Today, our focus will be mainly on lumen, lum, which stand for light. Okay, so let's start. Let's go to the word web now. Okay, देखिए बहुत ही सिंपल है. The way we'll go about this is the root and the meaning have been mentioned in the center of the web. ये जो आपको web दिख रहा है, word web, इसके center में you have the root and the meaning, and surrounding this the root and the meaning are basically a set of words which derive their meaning from this particular root. Okay, so you'll see as we go about this, it'll be clearer. So see, the first word here that we have is illuminate. Now illuminate basically means to throw light on something, make something more visible, more clear to vision, right? Now this can be used in a literal sense. इसको एक literal sense में भी use किया जा सकता है, और एक it can also be used in a figurative sense, right? Now what do I mean by literal and figurative sense? We basically consider the example. Let's say let's take the sentence that as soon as the lights were turned on, the chaos, the disorder in the room was illuminated, right? So that means maybe शायद रूम में बहुत सारी चीज़ें बिखरी पड़ी हुई थी, right? So जैसे ही लाइट चालू हुई तो पता चल गया सब ऐसे ही पड़ा हुआ है, right? So the chaos in the room was illuminated, right? So that's the literal sense, because you're actually like literally you're throwing light on the objects in the room, right? On the condition of the room. So that's literal. In case of a figurative usage would be, let's say a manager is having a conversation with an employee and he says that, can you please throw light on why you were not able to complete the project on time? Now obviously इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि the manager expects the employee to like take a torch and throw light on something, right? So it's being used in a figurative sense कि नहीं, can you basically tell me about the details कि आप ये क्यों time पे नहीं खत्म कर पाए, right? So it can be used in both the sense, right? So now let's move on to the next word at hand, which is bioluminescence. Now before we look at bioluminescence, let's just first understand the one part of the word which is luminescence. Okay, luminescence, Nescence. Now luminescence, guys, basically is a process, stands for a phenomena by virtue of which any object or entity emits light without being heated, right? It emits, मैं पूरा word नहीं लिख रहा हर जगह, without being heated, right? As opposed to another phenomena which is incandescence, or maybe if I were to use the word for अगर मेरे को किसी object के लिए इसको adjective की तरह use करना है, so it will be incandescent. Okay, आपको याद होगा there used to be these bulbs which are, जो पहले काफ़ी use होते थे, अभी इतने use नहीं होते हैं, these transparent bulbs with tungsten filament, right? With transparent glass, थोड़े से बड़े होते थे, and so wherein the light would be emitted because the tungsten filament is getting heated because as the electric current passes through the filament, right? So in that case, that those will be considered as incandescent bulbs, because in that case the emission of light, I'm going to use abbreviations now, so not proper abbreviation, the emission of light takes place due to the object, the item being heated, right? So वो incandescent होता है, and whenever it happens without them being heated, it's considered as the phenomena of luminescence. Now let's come to what is bioluminescence. Bioluminescence is basically whenever, now bio is a root that stands for life, okay? Biology, that means study of living organisms. So bioluminescence is basically when light is emitted by a living organism. You must have watched the movie Life of Pi, right? And there's a scene in the movie where Pi, the protagonist, who's in the boat in the sea, and वहाँ पे वो नीचे ocean में देखता है और देखता है कि uh, there's a this light emitting plankton, right? जो कि वहाँ पे सब जगह बिखरे हुए हैं. It seems like it's not just the stars getting reflected in the sea, it's actually some organisms which are emitting light by themselves. So now that phenomena will be considered as bioluminescence. Okay, so light emission by a living organism is bioluminescence. आगे चलते हैं. Luminary. Luminary is a term that is used for a prominent personality or a natural light giving body. Again, the natural light giving body will be the literal meaning of this. Like for example, moon, sun, etc. Can be considered as luminaries. Now it doesn't matter whether it is the light, whether the light that they are they're not emitting in both cases, like that the light that's coming from them is their own or is it being reflected. उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Luminary can be used for both of them as long as there's light coming from that direction, right? That's the literal meaning. The figurative meaning would be like for maybe a very prominent personality who's very influential and is quite famous and well known. They can also be considered as luminaries. Well, we'll see some examples of this in the sentences. Don't worry about that. Okay. Next, come to the word superluminal. Now, superluminal basically, guys, the word can be used as an adjective for anything that travels at a speed that is faster than light. Okay, so super is above, more, and luminal is like relates to the speed of light here in this case. So so like for example, there are these what do you call them? These elements, not elements, but basically there's something called tachyons, which are considered to have velocities more than that of light, right? So superluminal stands for that. Similarly, if you have superluminal, you also have subluminal. Subluminal objects will be basically objects that travel at a speed less than that of light. Like for example, all of our velocities, so far as we know, are less than that of light, right? So yeah, that will be subluminal and superluminal. Please don't misunderstand the word subluminal with the word subliminal, subliminal, which stands for any kind of stimuli that is quite weak in nature. Like it says that it is below the threshold of sensation, right? Something that is not felt very easily. For example, I'll just write this, wait. A kind of a weak stimuli or a process that is not felt very easily, right? So for example, let's say yesterday there was an earthquake, but it was of such a low magnitude that that it was not felt by anyone. So in this case, you'll regard that the effects of the earthquake or as subliminal in nature, right? So that means it was quite weak, so that no one felt it, right? So please don't confuse subluminal with subliminal. Okay, we will look into detail into this word and other such related words, other words with related meanings in detail in other sessions. In other sessions, right now we're going to stick to the lumen part, right? Luminal part. Okay. Next, philomenist. Now, philomenist is basically this word derives from two roots. The first root is phil, that stands for, well, love, right? And the other word, the second word is lumen. The second part of the word is lumen, which stands for light, obviously. So philomenist is basically not someone who loves light, but rather someone who loves to collect matchboxes or matchbox labels, right? Many people have this hobby of collecting matchboxes and matchbox labels. So that's who a philomenist is. By the way, this brings us to another word, which is philatelist. If philomenist is a person who collects matchboxes, who's a philatelist? A philatelist, guys, is a person who collects stamps, who loves stamps. Okay, so philatelist is that. Phil again derives from the word love. The other part, atalia, atalist derives from atalia. Again, in that we'll go into that particular route in some other sessions. I'll just give you a very brief overview of that. Atalia basically stands for something that is exempted from taxes, right? Now, the idea behind stamps earlier used to be, and even now is, that if you have a postage stamp stuck on a particular letter, that basically means that the receiver or anyone, like no one, like it has already been, the conveyance fee of that particular envelope or that letter has already been paid, and hence it is exempted from any kind of taxes, right, or any kind of charges, and hence so that's why Atelia came to mean as came to be came to known as a proxy for stamps, and hence someone who loves to collect stamps would be a philatelist, right? So see that's how that's how words evolve over time, and the meanings evolve over time. So depending on usage, it's not just always the root; it's also the way they are being used in context multiple number of times, and that's how they gain new meanings. Anyhow, so that's about the words. Let's move on to the sentences now. We'll look at the usage of each of these words in from well-known works. For example, look at the first sentence. It says, "A ray of wintry sunlight fell across the classroom, illuminating Lupin's grey hairs and the lines of his young face." Now, this sentence has been borrowed from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the book by J.K. Rowling, right? So, illuminating in this case means is being used in a literal sense, as we talked about earlier. 1 in 10 shark species are bioluminescent, that is, they light up in the dark, right? So I hope you can appreciate the meaning of the sentence now that we know what bioluminescence means. Taken from The Guardian, July 6, 2020 issue. Next, we are hoping that Nashville will include Bob Dylan among its luminaries, right? So luminaries is a person who's influential, who is prominent, who's a prominent figure. Bob Dylan, by the way, guys, is one of the greatest songwriters and singers that we had, I think, yeah. And in fact, he was, by the way, for those of you who have not heard his songs, he was awarded for his songwriting skills a Nobel in literature. Okay, so you can check out some of his songs, by the way. So see, guys, the sources from where these have been taken have been mentioned here. So I'm not going to call them out every time. They've been mentioned here for the sake of credits. Next, in other words, not all neutrinos are capable of superluminal speeds. Only those we have messed with, right? So again, so superluminal speeds means speeds greater than that of light. By the 1940s, it was estimated that more than 1 million Americans had become philuminists. That means collector of stamps, not stamps, sorry, matchboxes or matchbook labels, right? Stamps would be philatelist. So yeah, so that's about the sentence usage. Let's move on to the next part. So guys, this is the part where you can test your learning. Okay, so what I've done here is I've provided all the 5 words that we have learned directly. See, there are certain words that we learned directly, some of them that we learned indirectly as being associated with these words. I've only put the word that we learned directly in the episode. And what you can do is, and then you have 5 sentences here. Okay, you're supposed to figure out the right order in which these sentences should be placed so that they match with the word that would fill in their respective blanks, right? For example, if you believe that illuminate is a sentence that should, I'm not saying that's the case, but let's say if you believe that illuminate is a sentence, is a word that would fit in this blank in the second sentence, then your first letter here would be B. You'd write B here. Okay, if you believe that bioluminescence would fit in here, then you'd write A here. Okay, and so on and so forth, right? Obviously, I've not given you necessarily the correct answer here, so you can try this, and yeah. Coming to the last slide, summary में देख लेते क्या क्या सीखा हमने यहाँ पे. Roots, the roots that we learned about were lum and lumen, right? And that we directly learned about were lum and lumen, and the words that we directly learned were illuminate, bioluminescent, luminary, superluminal, and fluminist. Okay. So far as well, in the process of learning these roots and these words, we also indirectly came across the roots bio, super, sub, fill. Super stands for above or beyond. Sub stands for under or close to, right? And fill for love, bio for life. Luminescence, incandescent, subliminal, luminal, and philatelist. Okay. So guys, ये सारी चीजें हमने यहाँ पे cover की हैं, and yeah, so that's about the summary. Okay, so guys, before I provide you my introduction and credentials in case you might be new to the channel, यार एक चीज़ और समझिएगा आप यहाँ पे कि हम जो यहाँ पे रूट सीख रहे हैं, obviously my attempt is going to be to try and bring in words which are, you know, common and जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा आपकी reading में आएंगे. At the same time, and that's how that has been one of the factors basis which we select the words, okay, that we use here. However, oftentimes there are other factors involved as well. For example, words where the use of etymology can be demonstrated, because that will help you get used to looking into the etymology of words, right? जहाँ पे भी आपके multiple roots आ रहे हैं, आप उनको देख रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे क्या है क्या नहीं है, and then you get you are able to inculcate the process of looking into the roots of words, right? So that we are able to get to a level of skill जहाँ पे even if you come across a word which you have not seen in the past, but the roots of which you have a sense of, right? You know the meaning of the roots that are involved in that word. You'll still be able to make a very educated and a very probably hopefully a very close guess as to the meaning of that word, along with the context that it is given in, right? So that will help you. So the यहाँ पे frequency based list तो ये आपका है ही. At the same time, it is also driven. Another factor that drives the selection of words in these cases is dependent on on teaching you, on helping you develop the skill of an etymologist as such. So yeah, coming to my introduction. Okay, I'm Anupam Mishra, guys, from I'm Lucknow. I'm the alumnus of I'm Lucknow. These are my domain areas where I operate. I have experience with organizations such as Hotstar. I've worked with UNICEF, then Apollo Tires, IMS, etc. I used to be an educator on an academy. Probably arguably the best they had for VRC, and recognized my courses were recognized by the Johnny Ive Award. These are my CAT credentials. ये सब चीजें भी हैं. So yeah. We'll keep bringing up more content, and if we're just growing as a channel now, right? So if you really like the content and आपको लगा कि this is something that you'd want to have out there in the market, for aspirants, do like and subscribe to the channel and share the video with all those who you think can benefit from it. Okay, so that's about it from my side. बाकी अगले episode में मिलते हैं. Thank you.